Hello everyone, thanks for joining us today and welcome to this educational presentation of the only trading tool you'll need for 2018. First of all, I'd like to start out this presentation by wishing everyone a very happy new year. And I know that at the beginning of every year, I would say just about 99.9% of all traders start out with all these hopes and dreams, all of these goals of where they want to finish the year. And most of them never reach those goals. In fact, most traders know by the beginning of the first quarter that they're not going to really make it because they're relying on things that are faulty. There's no consistency in their trading. So I want to share with you today in this educational presentation a trading tool that I really feel will add and increase your odds for consistency. Now, the main reason why we stress this is because it's our opinion that most traders are relying on the wrong things. And by wrong, we mean that there's not a lot of validity behind them. They're not going to really help you in the long run. For example, let's take a look at this first slide here. This is a chart of letter C. Now, this is just a standard open, high, low, close chart on a daily basis with the stochastics applied. Now, this is a very common tool. A lot of traders love to use this. In fact, it can work pretty well. For example, if we use it as an overbought, oversold type of tool or indicator, we'll see that when the indicator goes into the so-called oversold area, well, that's an indication to buy. And you had a very nice rise after that. Now, following the tool as the stochastic got into the overbought area, well, it generated a sell signal. You could have exited your long position and had a really nice move to the downside if you were so inclined to go short. As we got back into the so-called oversold conditions, then you buy once again, cover your short. And this keeps going on, and you're thinking, boy, this is amazing. I'm going to retire in the next 6 months. This program I bought or this indicator I'm using is just so fantastic. And guess what? It's generated another sell signal. So I'm just going to make some more money. I'll sell my long position. And then this happens, okay? And then it continues to go in one direction. This is the way most tools or most indicators work. They will work until they don't. And then if you're not applying proper money management or a proper planning to your strategy or system, you most likely give everything back. Now, I'm saying this from firsthand experience because when I first started trading years ago, this is the way I was taught, this is the way I traded, and I couldn't make a dime trading this way. Sure, I would have some winning months every once in a while, but then the next month I'd give everything back. So extremely discouraging, very frustrating. And over the course of a year or two, I really had nothing to show for it. So in this educational presentation today, I'm going to share with you what I feel is the only tool you should be applying to your trading because it really will help that much, in my opinion. So welcome once again. This promises to be a great educational presentation. My name is Primo. I'm the president and founder of Specialist Trading. If you're new to my webinars, we are all about educating you. We're a little bit different from other webinars and presentations in that we don't promise to have the world's greatest system. We don't promise to make money on every trade. What we promise to do is give you sound fundamental education that has stood the best of time, because what I have found in my 40 years of trading is that that's what will sustain you. Not some fly-by-night system that you spend 10 grand for, or some indicator that's based on some convoluted logic that you're not really aware of or couldn't understand. We want to just give you sound fundamental tools and education that have really stood the test of time. Now, I've been trading for 40 years. I started my career on the floor of the Pacific Stock Exchange. I was on the floor for 16 years. 9 of those years I was a specialist. That's where we get the name specialist trading. Now, a specialist doesn't mean that you are any more special than anyone else. It just means that if you wanted to buy or sell a particular equity, you had to go to the trader who made a market and who specialized in that particular stock. So I made markets and specialized in roughly about 60 stocks. I made markets during the crash of 1987 and the bull market that followed. I've traded straight up, straight down markets, sideways markets. I've traded just about every technique or system you can think of. So in my 4 decades of trading, I know what works in terms of consistency and I know what doesn't. So why would you want to waste your time and especially hard-earned money searching for something that works when I can tell you right off the bat what I feel, in my opinion and in my experience, what does work? So this is what we do at Specialist Trading. We provide you with all these tools and information and techniques that can hopefully elevate and enhance your trading so that you can not just have a great year or a great couple of years, but so that you can hopefully be trading 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the road. That's the true meaning of success, that longevity factor. So that's what we're trying to instill in all of our students in our educational presentations and in our courses. Now, I have a great educational presentation for you today. I'm going to share a lot of examples on how to use this particular technique and this particular tool. But before we begin, as always, we're required to show you this by law, so please take a moment to view our disclaimer. I'm going to show you a lot of performance results, a lot of slides, but please remember that we can in no way guarantee that any of the results I'm about to share with you will be repeated in the future, and as well, all these examples are strictly for educational purposes only. Okay, so as you're taking a brief moment to view that, once again, I would also like to invite each and every one of you to follow us on Twitter if you haven't done so already. I post different information on a daily basis, anywhere from signals that our strategies have generated to little bits of wisdom along the way. So feel free to follow us on Twitter. Now, as I stated earlier, we're different from most companies in the fact that we're not preaching or promising to have the best system. We really don't believe in that. In fact, I think if anyone says that, you should run. What we want to do is simply educate you, because that is what will sustain you. So as you see here, my goal is not to force feed you some signals on a nightly basis. My goal is not to tell you, well, this is the only market you should be trading, or this is the only time frame you should be trading. I don't believe in that. No one should ever tell you how or what to trade. You should be in charge of your own trading. So therefore, my goal is to teach you how to trade, the same edge that was taught to me that has sustained me for roughly 40 years now, and this is the specialist edge. So as your mentor, I just simply want to hopefully shorten your learning curve so that you can get up and running, and 2018 will be the best year ever. That's what we really want to do for you, okay? Now, today promises to be a great educational presentation, but as with all of our presentations, I love to take your questions. But if you happen to have a question, please wait till the very end of today's class. If we stop for every slide, we'll be here 3 or 4 hours. I know you don't want to take that much time out. So please wait till the very end of today's class. I promise I'll get to each and every one of them. I will answer only one question now, and that's the most popular one, and that is this being recorded? Yes, it is. We record all of our classes and courses, so if you have to leave early, or if you're having technical issues, you can't see or hear the screen in front of you, don't worry. Pro Trader Strategies, my sister site, will send you a link to this recording, okay? So we have a good crowd here today. If you happen to join us late, please remember to wait till the end of today's class to ask any questions, roughly in about the next half hour or so. Okay, with that said, let's begin. Now, let me ask you a question. How does one become consistent in 2018? Remember, 99.9% of all traders start out the year with all these hopes and dreams, and the majority of all traders never reach them. In fact, by the first quarter, they know that they will never be reached. So how do we become consistent? How do we get back on track where trading is no longer a job or something you wake up in the morning and go, boy, I'm another losing day today, but something you look forward to and something that is very easy and consistent? Well, what most traders do is they attach themselves onto some master system that they spend tens of thousands of dollars for, or purchase some course that they really don't understand what it's about and use some indicator that they have been told that it's supposed to work. But if you realize all of these things are all based on someone or something telling you what to do, telling you what the market's going to do, telling you what that particular time frame is going to do. Just as we looked at that overbought, oversold oscillator, it was telling us that the market would top out here and that you'd sell, and then it would bottom out here and that you buy, okay? That's the one faulty thing with most trading plans. So in order to become consistent in the markets, you need a tool that doesn't predict, that doesn't tell you how high or how low something's going to go, doesn't tell you how strong it is, just a tool that translates what the market wants to do. I mean, after all, if we are trading the market in front of us, and I don't care if it's Bitcoin, commodities or stocks, it makes no difference. But if you're trading, shouldn't you just be listening to that instead of some convoluted tool that tells you, well, it's topped out here, you have to sell it, or it's bottomed out here, you have to buy it, or it's going to be going to this length here, you should hold on till it gets here? Shouldn't you be listening to what the market is saying it wants to do? The only trouble is we've never been given a tool that really tells us what the market wants to do. We always listen to some guy in a chat room telling us what to buy, what to sell. We listen to some convoluted tool indicator telling us to get in and to get out. Well, I really feel, and I've talked about this before, that tool you should be listening to is the Pet D. This was something I was introduced to some 40 years ago on the floor, and I have used it on a daily basis in my own personal trading. I used it this morning. I made money this morning trading with it. And I continue to use it because it's that powerful. It tells me on a tick by tick basis what the market wants to do. So all my job is to listen to what the pet D is telling me and then jump on board. Okay? Now, a lot of you are saying, well, what exactly is this pet D if you haven't been to my presentations before? Well, it's a proprietary algorithm. When I first learned about it 4 decades ago, yeah, I had to calculate it by hand. It wasn't something that we had, high-speed computers and programmers. There was no internet then, so we had to calculate it, and it was very cumbersome. It's not difficult, it's just cumbersome. So we've taken all the work out of it for you. We've made it proprietary. We keep the formula in-house, but we take all the work out of it for you. There's nothing you have to do. Why? Because we formatted it into a color bar tool. And all it does will simply change the colors of the bar. And there's only 2 colors. Green if the market is telling you it wants to go up, and red if it's telling you it wants to go down. So how do we use this? Well, one of the best ways to use this is as a signal confirmation tool. In other words, I don't care what strategy you're using. You could be using one of mine, one of yours, someone from another educator, but it will confirm your signals. If you get a buy signal, well, that should be colored green. That bar should be colored green because that's the market also confirming that it wants to go higher. If your strategy or system generates a sell signal, well, that bar should also be colored red. So that's a great tool in which to use, a great way in which to use this tool. But what we're going to be talking about today is the simplest, but I feel one of the most powerful ways to apply the pet D, and that's as an early trend detector. Because in my 40 years of trading, I have not found one thing that even comes close to matching how good this tool can tell me when the trend is changing or about to change. So let me show you an example here. Let's look at this example in Aetna, okay? As we can see, obviously in hindsight, the trend was up, okay? But then look what happened. On a dime, it changed and went immediately lower. Is there a tool that can keep us in sync with the market that's not going to predict the high, not going to predict the low, but at least get us in sync with the market so that we don't have to realize that we're no longer in an uptrend once it goes to the very bottom? Well, all you have to do is apply the pet D, okay? As you can see, the colors will change from green to red. And even though it doesn't tell us the top of the trend, it will tell us sooner than anything I've ever seen before. Now, the beauty of the pet D, as you see here, is that it tells you which direction you should be trading. And once you know that, you can apply virtually any strategy, one of mine, one of yours, someone else's, to that direction, and we strongly feel that it will increase your odds for success. Okay, so I want to share a technique with you today that is usually in our courses for pet D. It's one of our great techniques for entering into a straight up or straight down market. I'm going to give you all of the rules today and show you how powerful this actual technique is. This is one of my favorite techniques for using the pet D on. Here's the setup. Obviously, we're going to apply the pet D to our chart, which is going to automatically change the colors, and we're going to apply a 3-bar pivot high or a 3-bar pivot low. Now, if you're not familiar with what a pivot high or pivot low is, here's a brief refresher course. This is a 3-bar pivot high. Obviously, there's 3 bars, and it makes no difference what time frame we're looking at. This could be a 5-minute chart or a monthly chart. It makes no difference. But you have 3 bars where bar number 2 has the highest of all 3 bars, okay? Now, what we want to do is apply the pet D and make sure that all 3 bars are colored green. This is telling us that the short-term trend is up. And now, once we trade 1 tick above bar number 2, the highest of these 3 bars, we're going to enter. We don't need it to close there. It doesn't have to close above or on that level. All we need to do is see it trade there 1 or 2 ticks above, and we immediately go long. Because why? The market is telling us that it wants to go higher. And 2, it's broken out of this little short-term high, and most likely it's a little breakout to the upside. Seems simple, right? But I'm going to show you in just a few minutes how powerful this is. Why? Because you have the pet D at your back. Now, let's say you want to go short. Well, we're going to apply a short-term pivot low. The same thing, just turned upside down. All right, 3 bars, doesn't matter what time frame, but bar number 2 is the lowest of all 3 bars. Now we want to add the pet D, and all of these bars must be colored red. Why? Because we need the pet D to tell us that we're going lower, or most likely it wants to go lower. How low? We don't know. But we're just following along with it until it tells us that it's changed its mind. So at this point, you want to sell. one tick below bar number 2. It doesn't have to close below there, it just has to trade there. And you can go short, or you can use this as an exiting tool if you're long, okay? Let me show you how this works here. Remember we looked at letter C in the beginning and we're using the overbought, oversold oscillator to tell us when to get in, when to get out? That worked pretty good for a while, and then we gave it all back when the market continued to go higher and higher and higher. It's much easier if we just listen to the market instead of trying to predict where it's going to stop, where it's going to bottom out. For example, it's hard to tell what this market's going to do right here. We're kind of going in a sideways range, but once we add the pet D, well, the pet D tells us what it wants to do. Originally, it wanted to go higher, and then it wanted to go lower, but now it's changed its mind and wants to go higher again. Okay, but how do we jump on board? How do we add some structure? Well, we look for that 3-bar pivot high if it's going higher. All right, and what do we have here? We have bar number 1, a higher bar 2, and a lower bar 3. So this is the 3-bar pivot high. We didn't have it here, we didn't have it here. So we know now that we're going to buy if we trade 1 tick above. We do not have to close there. All we have to do is trade there. So we see what happened on the next bar, and we not only traded there, we closed above. So we're long, and we can take advantage of this nice run up, okay? Now remember, this is just a technique. This is not a full-fledged strategy. I know a lot of you, your first question is going to be, well, Steve, where do I get out? Where do I place my stop? Okay, can I ride this up? Where do I move my stop up? Those are all great questions. They're all extremely important, but those are all the questions you ask for a full-fledged strategy or system. Remember, this is a technique. All a technique does is tell you a fertile area to enter. It doesn't tell you a stop placement, doesn't tell you exit. So if you've been trading for a while, you can be able to figure that out. You know, you can place your stop below the last short-term low, and maybe whatever amount of risk that is, however amount of points, you'll just simply double that. That'll give you a 2-to-1 risk-reward ratio. Very simple. Or you can ride it as high as you want. It's up to you. We're just showing you a very high probability point of entry and showing you how simple it is to apply this. Now the beauty of this is if you happen to miss that first setup, well, don't just, lick your wounds and walk away. If the trend is strong enough, you'll see that the bars remain green. So there will be lots more setups all along the way, okay? You can take advantage of the next one and the next one. Okay, so that is the technique in a nutshell. Now let's apply this trading technique to up markets, okay? And we're going to show you just how you can use it if the market's been going higher, and then we'll switch over later on and show you how to use it if the market's going lower, okay? And that's how simple it is. But please remember, this is not a full-fledged strategy or a system. In order to have those, you need all the other important pieces of the puzzle: where to exit, where to place your stop, different entry points, different stop placements. You need a lot of that stuff. Money management. We're not talking about that because this is just a technique, as you see here. It's a trading technique, which is basically another way of saying one piece of that puzzle. Okay, so let's look at our first example here. Once again, if you happen to join us late, remember to hold off any questions till the end, and then we'll get to them to the very end. Here's TXT, Textron. Excuse me. In fact, this was a stock I used to make markets in on the floor on the stock exchange. Looking at this, we say, well, Steve, yeah, we're kind of going a little bit higher, but it looks like we've run out of gas. The last 5 days have closed lower. That's a negative sign. The chat room I like to go to says this is very negative, and they're telling me that the earnings are going to come out, and they're going to be very negative, so you should probably short this because it can't close up on the day. And on top of that, we just simply reached some real strong Fibonacci resistance. So if anything, I would look to sell this. Okay. You see how I justified my way of trading based on not what the market's doing, but based on an outside source telling me what to do, either some guy in a chat room, some trading guru, or some convoluted indicator that's too complicated to follow. You see, everything we've been taught is always based on someone or something that's telling us what the market's going to do. Why not just simply listen to the market? Trust me, I'm saying this from experience. This is the way I was taught as well. I used to have tons of indicators. I knew all the earnings, estimates of all the stocks I was making markets in. I listened to all the news. We didn't have chat rooms then, but we had newsletters. I subscribed to all of them. And if they didn't work for me 40 years ago, they're not going to work now. So my mentors saw how much I was struggling, and they were I was lucky enough to listen to them. It took me a while to really fully grasp their concepts. But once I did, that's when I started to become a consistent trader. I started what they called releasing all of this useless noise that was really not helping me. It was just really keeping me treading water. I wasn't making any money. And they said the same thing I'm telling you today, some 40 years later. Forget about all that stuff because there's no consistency in them. They will work every once in a while, but if they work that great, then, ask yourself, how's your trading doing? Okay? Are you anywhere near where you want it to be? So why not just listen to the market? That's what they told me, and that's what I'm sharing with you today. So how do we listen to the market? Well, we add the pet D. And now the pet D was oscillating between red and green, and then finally we have a short-term top here where all the bars are green. 1, 2, 3, okay? So we're going to buy one tick above. We don't need it to close there. We just need it to trade. As you can see, we opened higher, so we would have purchased here, and the stock gained 6 points in the next 3 weeks. And as you can see, the bars remain green. So as long as the bars are green, you can have 2, 3, 4 chances to get in. You can add to your position, or you can initiate another one. Maybe you want to get in and out at one point. That's great. Maybe you want to stay in as long as possible. That's great too. See, I'm not the kind of guy that's telling you, no, you have to get out here. This is a system. You're going to make your own decisions, not me. I'm giving you this information that has stood the test of time. And I share with you all the different exit points, entry points, all the different things I've shown to work really well. But you can't use all of them. You've got to pick what works for you. And so that's what our job is as specialist trading and pro trader strategies. We provide our students all over the world, in every state in the United States, with this information and work with you. But ultimately, you're going to be in charge of your own trading. Not some guy in a chat room, not some guy on TV, but you. All right, let's look at KSS. Once again, we have a short-term pivot high right here, 1, 2, 3. We buy one tick above right here, and a quick 8 points in the next month or so. How about GPC? All right, we were originally red coming up here, but we're only looking for buy situations. Here's a little short-term top, but these bars were red, and then the following bar was red, so we can't do anything. Now all of the bars seem to be green, so we're waiting for the first short-term top, which is right here. 1, 2, 3. So that's where we want to buy, right here, as we traded right there, and the stock jumped 12 points in the next 2 weeks. Did we have any idea we were going to jump up like this? Absolutely not. So how did we know to go long this? Because we were listening to what the market was telling us 2 weeks in advance. It was telling us it wanted to go higher. You see, trading is so simple when you just listen to the market and not some guy in a chat room or some convoluted tool. Just listen to the market, and that's what the Pet D does. It doesn't predict anything, doesn't say how high or how low. It is just on a tick-by-tick basis translating what the market wants to do. RTN, obviously in hindsight, this stock went much higher. All right, someone looking at this will say, well, yeah, Steve, it's easy to go long here. You're right. But wouldn't you have liked to known back here that we were going to go higher, that the stock wanted to go higher? Well, you apply the Pet D and look at, we were green well in advance of this nice rise here. So all along the way up, look at all the buy setups you could have had using this simple tool. The stock soared 20 points in 3 months. We didn't know that, but we're just riding it all the way up. How about letter R? Okay, someone looking at this is a very, very common observation, and this is the way we were taught, this is the way I was taught. When a stock goes up very strongly, regardless of what it is, a market, a stock, a ETF, an index, a commodity, makes no difference. But when it rises up really quickly like this, the first thing we're taught is, well, that's overbought, right? That's all the indicators are overbought. It's hit major resistance. There's no way you should be buying it up here. It's too high. Once again, where is my justification coming from? Coming from outside source, what someone or something is supposed to be telling me what the market's going to do. Why don't I just listen to what the market tell me what it wants to do, all right? And we apply the Pet D, and the market is saying, well, these bars are green, so the market wants to go higher. So who am I to sell if the market is telling me it wants to go higher? I mean, that's silly. So rather than that, we look for the 3-bar pivot high, which is right here. And if we trade 1 or 2 ticks above, that's our entry. And we did. Now, as you notice here, we didn't close above. It makes absolutely no difference. We are just buying, okay? We don't care where it closes, because if we had cared about that, well, we would have missed the 7 points in the next 2 to 3 weeks. You see how the market was telling us, even though we went straight up, it still wanted to go higher. So just listen to the market and your trading will be a lot more consistent. Okay, now here's something that happened very recently. In fact, this last month, coming into mid-December into January, we have a stock going straight down and then kind of bounces and goes up. But what's it going to do? Is it in a range here? Is it going to go back down again? Well, let's listen to the market and have it tell us what it's going to do. We apply the pet D, and I'm kind of jumping ahead of here, but as you can see, originally we had all red bars, and that was the market telling us it wanted to go lower. Now, if we use the same concept of the 3-bar pivot low, though, and we sold right here, well, we had 15 points to the downside to work with. Now, we realize this is an expensive stock. You could have purchased puts. You don't have to actually go short the stock if you don't want to, and we know a lot of traders don't even like to short, so you could have just waited for the bars to turn green, and just about 2 weeks ago, they did. All bars turned green, and what do we have right here? We have a short-term pivot high. So now the market quickly changed and said right here, now I want to go higher. All right? Didn't tell us anything about its earnings. It didn't tell us anything about what the company's doing or the new CEO or whatever some news is based off of. It didn't tell us anything about what some guy's saying in the chat room. We don't care about those things. We're only listening to the market. And the market's telling us that it's turned green roughly about the last week, week and a half. All the bars are green. So it's telling us it wants to go higher. Until it changes its mood, well, we're buyers now. We are no longer sellers. So there's a 3-bar pivot high, and we purchased on the next bar. And it was a nice buy there because it went up that day. Now, it's up to you. You could have sold at the end of that day. You could have sold halfway through that day and said, well, it's a nice quick profit I'm getting out. Or you could have held on for another 35 points to the upside. It's up to you. Remember, our philosophy is we provide you with the information, but you make the decision based off that information. In other words, you can use our exit plans that get you in and out rather quickly. You can use our exit plans that have you stay in for as long as possible. You can use our different stop placements that are very conservative. You can use our different stop placements that are aggressive. But we're not going to tell you which one to use. Only you can define what makes you feel comfortable. Because if you're not comfortable trading a method, trust me, you're not going to make money. Take it from someone who's been there before. When I was struggling tremendously, I was spending tens of thousands of dollars buying all these master systems and ideas and different logic on how to trade the markets. This was 40 years ago, and I spent upwards of $30,000, $40,000 on different methods, which by today's standards would probably be over $100,000, $200,000. Okay, I had no idea what they're based on, but they were supposed to work. I felt so uncomfortable trading them because sometimes I was trading 20, 30 times a day. Other ones I was trading once a month. So I wasn't comfortable, because I hadn't devised it. It wasn't based on my, personality or my particulars. It was based on someone or something else's. So even if that was a master system, I didn't make any money on it because I would, forget about it because it was not producing a signal, and I had to wait 3 weeks. And so I stopped looking at it, and maybe I missed it. Or if it traded 30 times a day, it was like, I can't follow all these signals. This is crazy. And, I just wouldn't trade it. So that's the philosophy. The great truth is that no two traders should ever trade alike. You have to find your own way. Now, the good news is we provide you with all that information. Now, had you taken both of these scenarios, well, you would have had roughly 50 points to work with in the month of December, roughly. Now, lastly, let's look at the QQQs. We know that not everyone trades them. This is a weekly chart of the QQQs. But what if you wanted to use this technique just as a directional tool to tell you what you think the market was going to do? Because if a buy or sell signal was generated in an ETF, well, most likely the stocks that make up that ETF, that index, would go in the same direction. Well, let's look at the QQQs on a weekly basis. We see here, this is January 2017. Now, the market had gone up. This is, once again, a year ago today. We had no idea what the market was going to do. I didn't predict anything. People were asking me, what do you think of the markets? I said, I have no idea. I just listen to what the market tells me, and I just act accordingly. I don't care if it goes up or down. I'll just go in the direction it tells me it's going. So at this point, the QQQs were going up. A lot of people thought, well, it's due for a little sell-off here on a weekly basis. But if you added the PET D, you see that coming into January 2017, all of the bars were green. So what's the market telling us? Well, it's not some economist or not some guy on TV, some trading guru, but what's the market telling us on a weekly basis in the QQQs, the ETF or the NASDAQ? It's telling us it wants to go higher. So who are we to dispute that? Nobody. That's not our job. Our job is not to predict what the market wants to do. Our job is just to listen to what the market wants to do and then jump on board. So the market told us it wants to go higher. So just using this technique, one of dozens of techniques we have for our members, you could have said, well, I'm going to buy if we trade one tick above here. Or at least use that as a signal to tell me that the markets are going higher. Doesn't mean I have to go long the QQQs, but just that the markets are going to be going higher. And as you can see, it triggered a buy setup. Okay, so you would have said, well, you know, I don't have the options on the QQQs. I'm not long the stock, the ETF, but you know, I'm long some stocks that make up that index, and maybe that can help me, because that would have been a good idea, because we all know what happened last year. In fact, since that buy signal a year ago this month, the QQQs gained 38 points in 2017. Now, if you don't trade the NASDAQ or the QQQs, well, that roughly estimated out to 5,000 Dow Jones points. Okay, 5,000 points. So this is how powerful this tool is. Now, we've been having a very strong upward market. We all know this. We'll continue to make highs and highs. Does this work on the downside? Well, let's apply this technique to down markets. Here we have a situation in ASR. Okay, looking at this, someone would say, well, we're just kind of going sideways here, Steve. I really don't know what to do. Maybe we're making a bottom here. Well, what is the market telling us? What is not some worn out tools that, you know, people have been using for hundreds of years that show no consistency? What's the market telling us? We add the PET D, and we see that the majority of the bars are red. You only have a couple of green here. But if they're red, then we're looking for the short-term pivot low, and that's what we have right here, 1, 2, 3. So we want to go short or sell one tick below that, which would happen on the next bar, and 14 points in 2 weeks, okay? This is how simple it is. The same concept, we just turned it upside down. How about WBA? Okay, well, we see up here we had all the bars green. So what was the market telling us? It was telling us it wants to go higher. So we're not going to just buy because, you know, we need some structure. We need to fine tune our entries. We can't just buy at the market. So we want to make sure that we buy above this 3-bar pivot high, but it never traded above there. So while we're waiting for it to trade above there, the market changed its mind and it said, you know what, now I want to go lower. Okay, so we go out of buy mode. We're now in sell mode. We don't care what the market does. We don't care, you know, if something goes straight up or straight down. As traders, that's not our job. It's not our job to figure out if it's going to bottom out or top out, or figure out if it's bad if it goes up or bad if it goes down. We don't care. A trader just jumps on board. So it's telling us that it wanted to go lower. Here's the 3-bar pivot low. We would have gone short 5 points in 1 week to the downside, okay? You could have taken 1 point, 5 points, it's up to you. How about PEP? Someone looking at this would say, Steve, you know, we're kind of going lower to sideways, but this has hit a major bottom here. In fact, this low didn't confirm this low, so we have this discrepancy here. So I'm really getting excited to buy this because the you know, the divergence is lined up for a screaming buy. At least that's what you know, this guy said in a chat room. Once again, does this sound familiar? What's the market telling us? The majority of the bars are red. We only had 2 green. So the market's not telling us it wants to go higher. The market didn't say it made a low. It didn't say any of those things. In fact, we had a setup to go short right here. All right. This is what we mean by when we say consistent. You've heard me say this over and over again. You want to be a consistent trader. A consistent trader means that from time to time you will have some losses, but you want to have a method that's able to jump back in and hopefully recoup those losses. Well, let's say you would use this first sell signal here. Well, as you can see, nothing really happened. In fact, we went all the way back up. Let's just say we took a loss somewhere up here. That would have come out to roughly 2 points. So we lost 2 points. Before you go and lick your wounds, you have to continue to be diligent and monitor the market, because the market's like a parade. It keeps going. We can't stop and say, well, I'm going to sit in the sidelines and forget about it for a while. You have to continue to be involved, or else you'll miss another setup, because 2 weeks later, what do we have? The bars turn red again. We have another setup right here. So even though you lost 2 points, time to get back in, you get short again, and then 5 points to the downside. So you would have made that 2 points back and hopefully been able to have a profit. How about letter D? Okay, this is coming in this last couple of weeks into January. In fact, into today, actually. As we can see, we've kind of gone sideways to lower. Originally, all the bars were green. The market was telling us, I want to go higher. At this point, roughly, it said, you know what? I've changed my mind. I want to go lower. Okay? We don't care. We're just following whatever you tell us you want to do. Here's the 3-bar pivot low right here. We wait for it to touch there, and this was yesterday, and look what happened today. 5-point gap to the downside. Did we have any idea, whatever that was based off, news or something, that we were going to gap down? No, we had no idea. All we were doing is listening to the market. And we can look at DXCM. Here's another example. The market made a 3-point pivot low, but we never traded below there. In fact, we changed colors, so we negate this. Because once you change colors, the market's telling us it wants to go in a different direction. So we're not going to wait to go short down here again. So we have to wait for another setup. So we negate that, and about a week or two later, we have red bars again, and we have our short-term pivot low. So once we trade below there, we go short, and look what happened 2 days after our initial entry. 25 points to the downside. Once again, how did we know that was going to drop 25 points? Were we studying the earnings, or were we studying the news that came out based on that, or something fundamental? No, it's not required in any of our courses to study that. All that is required is to learn how to listen to the market. Because it's been my experience in 40 years since I started using these tools that the market tells you just about everything you need to know. So why would I listen to something else? If the source is telling me right in front of my face what it wants to do, I should just listen to that, right? So I had no idea why it fell 25 points, but it really didn't matter. All I did was jump on board with it. Okay, so let's recap before we go to question and answer portion. Remember, we use the 3-bar pivot high or low, but we need to apply the PET D because the PET D is going to tell us which direction to be trading that high or low. If we have a 3-bar pivot high, all 3 bars should be colored green, and we simply buy once we trade above the highest of those 3 bars. If we have a 3-bar pivot low, all those bars must be colored red because the market's telling us it wants to go lower, and we simply go short, either purchase puts, some type of spread strategy that has a negative bias, and that will initiate once we trade 1 or 2 ticks below. But you must have the PET D. I know a lot of you are saying, well, you know, I don't need the PET D to tell me that we have a downtrend or an uptrend. I can tell that, sure, sometimes it will work. But trust me, there are so many instances where students have told me this, and they've gotten long, and the PET D did not confirm it, and they wind up losing money. Remember, we're trying to instill and provide you with consistent techniques. And there's no consistency if you're using some old, outdated way of determining what the trend is. I've been using the PET D almost every day now for 40 years. And I wouldn't be caught without it. All right, once again, points to remember. I know a lot of you, once we open up the question and answer box, will say, gosh, Steve, this is great. Where do I get out? Where do I place my stop? Remember, this is not a complete strategy. Those are questions you ask when you purchase a strategy, okay? This is just a technique. The PET D is not a system. It doesn't tell you where to get in. It doesn't tell you where to get out. It doesn't tell you where to place your stops. It's just a great tool for defining the trend and defining and confirming signals. But I mean, that in itself is worth its weight in gold. But in order to find out those other things, you need to learn more about, strategy rules and the pieces of the puzzle, such as advanced entry signals. Maybe you want to get in a little bit lower, a little bit higher. How about stop placement? We didn't protect ourselves because, as I stated, not every trade will be a winner. It's about consistency. And lastly, we didn't talk about exiting. Sure, some of those trades went up 30, 35 points, but where would you have exited? Where would you have known to get out? Would you have stayed in them, hopefully to gain more points? And we didn't talk about money management. How many shares? How many contracts? You know, that's extremely, extremely important. So as we go into question and answer portion, I want to ask you a question, and I want you to ask yourself honestly. 2017 just ended. We just ended the year. Do you think this technique could have helped your trading this past year? Okay, look at your results. I'm sure you know them right off like the back of your hand right now. Either you had a great year or you had a terrible year. Most likely you didn't have that good of a year, because if you had a great year, you probably wouldn't be at this educational presentation. You'd be happy with what you're doing. Most traders, unfortunately, fall into that 80 percentile where they have very difficult time trading. Here's the beauty of what we provide. We try to get you back on board. I just shared with you a technique and showed you a number of markets, different time frames, different ways in which to enhance your trading. Now, here's the special attendee discount we want to offer all of you. Hopefully to start out 2018 on the right track. We're going to offer you our Pet D, okay? This is our roadmap for any market. We're going to give you the proprietary color bar algorithm. Now, this includes the add-on, so if you have a major platform such as MT4, TradeStation, Metastock, NinjaTrader, Thinkorswim, you'll be able to use the Pet D and change the colors, okay? We're also going to include 2 continuation trading techniques. Remember, not systems, because this is not a strategy or a system. It's simply a trend identifier. But we're going to give you 2 more continuation techniques, and we're going to also throw in 2 pullback trading techniques. We're also going to include a trailing stop technique. So you can use this for stop placement as well. Remember, you can apply this to any market, any time frame, any strategy. That's how beautiful this is. But we're not going to just stop there. Now, as you can see here, a lot of people are concerned with other markets. Here's a 15-minute chart of the E-mini futures. Well, look, in hindsight, once we applied the Pet D, we would have known well in advance that we were going higher. So if you like to trade intraday, well, guess what? You can still take advantage using this technique out of one of the roughly 4 to 5 techniques we're offering in the course. In addition to that, you can apply it to currency pairs. Here's a Canadian dollar. Looking in hindsight, someone would say, boy, I really got burned trading this because the chat room or trade room I go to had me buying here, had me buying here, had me buying here. Well, once you have the Pet D, you know whether you should be buying or selling. We knew well in advance that we shouldn't be touching this with a 10-foot pole because it told us well in advance that all the bars were red. So rather than trying to pick a bottom, we simply went with the flow and could have gained upwards of 800 pips. And then lastly, what if you trade the Bitcoin? Here's a weekly chart of Bitcoin, okay? You know there's been a lot of interest as of late. People say, well, this doesn't apply to that, right? Because this is based off entirely different, data. It's a totally different market. Markets are all the same. It's just what we apply to them makes them different. Because looking in hindsight, sure, this has gone straight up on a weekly time frame, but once you add the Pet D, we knew well back at the beginning of January when Bitcoin was trading around 1,000 that all the bars were green. So how did we know it was going to be going higher? We didn't look at and think it was going to have this monstrous explosion to the upside. We had no idea. The market was telling us. And using the same technique I just shared with you and taught you, you could have used this to potentially capture upwards of 16,000 points, okay? We're not saying you would have. Maybe you would have gone out with maybe taking a quick 100. It's up to you. But remember, that's the philosophy at Specialist Trading. It's entirely up to you. We just gave you this tool, the Pet D, that told you well in advance that it wanted to go higher. But as I stated earlier, we're not stopping there. We're throwing all this in with different markets, different time frames. So if you trade currencies and futures, or if you trade stocks and Bitcoin, you can apply the same techniques to both. But we're also going to be sharing this with you on our new platform. This is the PTS Primo charts. I spent the last couple of years developing this with my sister site, Pro Trader Strategies. I'm extremely proud of this because it makes trading so simple. Everything is one click away. There's nothing you have to upload onto your computer or onto your platform. It's right there. The Pet D is just one click away. Okay, all of our techniques are right there, and we really feel that this is the educational portal that you've been searching for. We're not going to just, stop and say, well, yeah, we're just going to give you a demo of this. Here's what's included. We're throwing in the enhanced buy sell line. This is another proprietary tool that tells you the overall trend direction. So where the Pet D tells you the short term, this will tell you the overall. So now you have the longer term and the short term, and you can use them in sync together if you like. We're also throwing in a great strategy that captures quick momentum moves. That's strategy 3A. You're going to get all the rules, and you're going to get one click away telling you where the buy and sell signals are. We're also providing you with a scanner. So if you're not able to be in front of your computer, it comes with a great and very simplified scanner. It takes about 30 seconds. You load up whatever market or ETFs or currency pairs you're interested in, and in about 30 seconds, it will spit out all the buy and sell signals for the next day. We're also including 2 proprietary entry techniques, okay? These are 2 more extremely powerful techniques to fine-tune your entries, regardless of what market or time frame you trade. If you like to tinker under the hood and experiment and create your own strategy, we have over 90 technical indicators included. But we're also including Bloomberg TV, and this is live Bloomberg TV. We have a special media page where all you have to do is open that up, and on your chart you'll see a small little box that has live Bloomberg coming up. So if you love to look at news, if you need to know what that economic report is going to be, that's okay. Remember, our credo is not to tell anyone how to trade. It's just not required to look at any of the news and our strategies or methods, but if you want to, go ahead. We have it there for you, live, free Bloomberg TV. And then lastly, personalized tech support. We've got nothing but great testimonials about our tech support. If someone has an issue with loading a chart, or they can't get the indicator up properly, they don't know how to use it, or the strategy up and buy arrows, we usually solve the issue in a matter of moments. So we have great personalized tech support. We're throwing all of this in 3 months free. So this is all included. I believe this is upwards of $1,000 value. This is included free because we really want to introduce you to how simple trading can be when you have all of this included with the Pet D and the platform. It's right there in front of you. Now, normally, this would run upwards of $5,000. I think a minimum of $5,000. The Pet D, using 3 months of the PTS Primo chart with all these enhanced different techniques and things applied. Here's what we're doing for all the people to start off 2018 right. We're reducing the price down by $2,000 down to $29.95, but included with that, we're including payment plans. So if you can't come up with that one lump sum, don't worry. You can start out with a small deposit and still be up and running. So you don't need to come up with $29.95. They can work out a payment plan that meets your needs, and you can still be up and running as soon as today. One last thing I didn't mention is that so many times people buy systems or strategies, and then they're kind of left out in the, to fend for themselves, and hopefully they can reach their tech support or answer a question, weeks from now. Well, that's not the way it is with our company. You will get educational mentoring correspondence with yours truly. This is coming from someone who has been applying these techniques on a daily basis for 4 decades. So if you have any questions, trust me, I've been through it before. I've seen it all. I can answer your questions in a matter of moments. So you will get my personal email. You can contact me. If you have a question with the Pet D, you have a question with some of the strategies on the platform, anything, I will answer them for you right away. So this comes with the course. And that's not just for a couple of weeks. That's for the lifetime of this course, which is yours. It's yours for a lifetime, so I'll be your personal mentor for a lifetime. Once you're a student of mine, you're a student of mine for life. So from someone who's been trading these techniques and methods for 40 years, you get it straight from the horse's mouth what to do, how to implement them, and what the best way would be for you, for your personal trading persona. So once again, $29.95. I can almost venture to say that most of you lost, I would say, 5 times that in the market this past year. Invest in yourself, okay? For a small deposit, you can be up and running right away. And, hopefully you'll be able to take care of your trading and have that dream year you've been waiting for to happen. Here's how to take advantage of this great offer, okay? My sister site, Pro Trader Strategies, handles all of our discounts, handles all of our courses. You can either email them at the email address provided here, or my opinion, my suggestion, the best thing to do would be simply to call them at area code 310-598-6677. Now, they can answer any question. There's no obligation. They'll answer any question that you may have, and they can set up a payment plan with you, and they can format it to see if it works for you. Remember, you don't have to come up with one lump sum. You can just come up with a small deposit and work off a payment plan that meets your needs, okay? Now, for more information, that link below will take you to the sign-up page if you want to just be free and clear and buy it at $29.95. If that meets your needs, sure. Now, that's not a live link, but a live link has been posted on the chat box on the far right-hand corner. So all you have to do is click on that, and that will take you to the sign-up page. Once again, my suggestion is to contact Pro Trader Strategies. They have trading consultants. They can answer any question you have, either about the platform or about the Pet D or about the courses and what's offered on the platform. And there's no obligation at all. They'll be happy to answer any question that you may have. Now, in terms of answering questions right now, I want to thank you for waiting. I'm going to open up the question and answer box while I leave this information right up here. And let's see, DT. Oh, hello, DT. It says using the 5-bar pivot high low instead of 3-bar pivot high low give you a better result. I get this question asked a lot. In other words, if you're not familiar with what this student is saying, you can have a pivot high based off of 3 bars, where bar number 2 is the highest, or you can have it based off 5. Now, this student is asking, which is more valid, 3 or 5? Okay. It's been my opinion. This is, once again, I'm not telling anyone how to trade. If you have a 5-bar, which in other words takes more bars to construct, you just want to make sure that each and every one of those bars and continues to stay the same color, okay? Because it could be a little bit more valid because it takes a little bit more strength to break through that resistance, that little short-term resistance. So there is a small minor validity to having a 5-bar. But as we stated, you're going to be in charge. There's no right or wrong way to trade. If you see a 3-bar pivot high or a 3-bar or a 5-bar pivot high, it's up to you, you know. Either way, there's still pivot highs. So since this is not back tested or research, because we don't believe that everyone should trade differently, work it out on your own. See what works best for you, okay? Either way, they're still going to fit the technique as long as the bars stay the same color, okay? Let's see. Brad is saying, hey, Steve, what trading platform can I use the PETD on for Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies? Well, I believe you can use it on for MT4. I think that, and I know TradeStation has it as well. But one of the best things is the PTS Primo charts. Okay, I mean, every chart I shared with you today, the currency pairs, as well as stocks, as well as futures, as well as the Bitcoin chart, are all on that 3-month offer you have with the PTS Primo chart. So we have all those markets as well. For more market information, I would probably contact Pro Trader Strategies because they can tell you more about the different platforms. But I basically, the only couple of platforms I use are PTS Primo charts and TradeStation. And I know those two obviously have Bitcoin, okay? PETD can also be used on MetaTrader as well, I believe, yeah. Jesus. Someone is asking for help from a support team. Yes, Joe, if you need help from the support team, they have a great tech support. Just contact your trading consultant. That's the person you purchased the platform from, and they'll put you in sync with the trading, or I should say the tech support department. You know, they're always there and willing to help you, but you have to make some effort on your part to contact them. They won't know what's going on. So contact them. If you're having trouble with your version or there's some bugs in a particular version, don't worry. They'll be able to answer any of the problems and correct the issues right away, okay? Jason said, it sounds like magic. Well, no, Jason, it isn't magic. And once again, remember, before I read the rest of your question, please remember, I started at the beginning of this presentation saying we are an educational company. This is not magic. This is education. And why did I say that we only provide education? Because education is what will sustain you, okay? Now, things that sustain you are not magic. They just have levels of consistency. And that's the only thing we provide. So please don't think that this is magic. I'm not, in fact, I think I stated in the first 5 minutes, we are different from other educators, other presenters, where we don't promise to have the world's best system that generates thousands of % per year. We don't promise that, and we don't believe in that. We're simply here to provide you with education that has stood the test of time. I showed you a couple of examples where this didn't work. But why did I show that to you? Because on the very next setup, you would have been able to recoup those losses. And that's what we provide you with, consistent methods, a 2-step forward, 1 step back. So I know, Jason, you're saying this sounds like magic. Can you give an insight into how it works and knows what the market is telling us? Well, I can give you an insight. I can't tell you what it is because we've decided to keep it in-house or proprietary. But all I can tell you that PETD is based off of momentum. Okay, on a tick-by-tick basis, it's telling us on a momentum what the market wants to do. And if the momentum shifts according to the formula, it will change direction of the market. And it's not a very difficult formula. It's just cumbersome. If you are doing what I used to do on the floor, you basically have no time to trade if you're looking at intraday because you're constantly updating the PETD. So when I used it, we only used it for daily bars because it was too difficult to try on an intraday basis. So we'd get the information at the end of the day, we plot it, we go through all the format, and then we'd say, okay, well, the next day is a green bar. Okay, so we're still going all right, upside. If we got a red bar, we go, okay, we better see if the next bar is red, because if you have a consecutive 2 bars of the same color, that's pretty much a confirmation that we're going in that direction. So once again, we're keeping it in-house because there are plans probably, I've been saying this for a couple of years, but we have a lot of interest as of late, and this may even happen this year, to actually lease this out. If that happens, the cost of the pet D will go up substantially, and you will have to pay for it most likely on a quarterly basis. And the price will be much more because of that, because we have institutions that are interested in it. So it's in your best interest if you purchase it now, and you won't be subject to any cost increases at all, okay? No, I understand, Jason. I know you're not, and I'm just trying to nip it in the bud if anyone is thinking that. I totally understand. I didn't take it that way, Jason. I just don't want people to think that we have a magic formula and it never loses and there's nothing you have to do. No, we teach you how to become a part of the process. Once again, it's our philosophy to provide you with this information, but you have to be in control, not us, not someone on TV, not some fundamental news. It's you have to make the decisions. The good news is we provide you with all the variables so that you can make a proper decision based on your character. You see, some traders love to trade aggressively. I have a couple of students that are extremely aggressive. I can't believe the amount of trades they have and their risk exposure, but that's the way they like it. And using our techniques and methods, they do very well. And they feel comfortable trading that way because that's who they are. Now, at the same time, we have other students who are extremely conservative. They don't want to risk a lot, and they don't care about a number of trades happening all the time. They just want some highly consistent setups. And so we show them how to trade that way. Okay. Now, is one better than the other? Absolutely not. What's wrong is when you try to trade something that's out of sync with your nature. Because as I stated earlier, I don't care how profitable and how many years you back tested it and it works fantastically and it generates hundreds of thousands of dollars. You will not make money if you don't feel comfortable. Take it from someone who's been there. Okay. So I learned years ago that the great truth in trading is that no two traders should ever trade alike. I'll say that again. No two traders should ever trade alike. So this is why we don't believe in chat rooms or trading rooms. This is why we don't believe in signal service and telling you what to buy or sell. Now, we provide you with signals, but once again, for education so that you know what to look for, and then you can decide how you want to apply it. But they're just setups we apply you with, okay? That's it, and provide you with. So no two traders should ever trade alike. That's what the great fault is in most traders. They're relying on some guy or some signal service or some master system that some guru trades on his own who's become a millionaire. And then they trade it and they go, how come it's not working for me? Because it works for someone else, but it doesn't fit your nature. So you have to find out what fits you. So we provide you, for example, just imagine you wanted to learn how to cook, okay? Well, what good would it do if I said, you must make the meal exactly the way I do, okay? Then you really wouldn't be learning how to cook. So I provide you with the ingredients. I show you different ways in which to cook it, but then you've got to make your own meal, okay, to your own style, how you like. Would you like to have it spicy? Do you want it more bland? It's up to you. So that's what we provide you with. We're giving you all the recipe here for a great meal that you're going to make in your own trading. Now remember, we just started 2018 just a few days ago. How would you like to say a year from now? Boy, this is the best year I've ever had. I've never traded so consistently. Sure, I have some small losses every once in a while, but every month is better than the last. I continue to do better. And most importantly, I'm excited about trading. I feel comfortable trading. This is what we want to provide you with, okay? We're not going to sit here and provide you with a master system or a master plan. We don't believe in that. What we're providing you with is with information that's helped me to trade for 40 years, and hopefully it can help you, okay? So once again, if you're really sincere about getting your trading on track for 2018, this is the course you should take. A year from today, you will have wished you took this course. So here's the information. Contact Pro Trader Strategies for any more information. There's no obligation. You can ask them any question you like. My suggestion would be to call them directly, and then if you're interested, you can put together a payment plan. But don't sit on this too long before we go on to another course or another method with a different discount, and this goes back up to its original higher price, okay? Okay, in conclusion, I just want to say thank you so much. I hope you learned a little bit about our philosophy and about trading today. And as we go forward, I just want to say I wish you all the best of luck. I hope you're going to have a great year, regardless of what you decide to do. But most importantly, I look forward to all of you becoming students of mine at Specialist Trading. Thank you so much. Have a great new year, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.